On behalf of the MCA of Kansas City's Education Committee, as well as with support from the Mechanical Contractors Education and Research Foundation, I'm happy to introduce the session on LEM. And the purpose of this session is to provide the foundation of the web-based labor estimating manual system. And we're privileged to have Ron King, who is the segment manager from AccuBid, division of Trimble, and Tim Moormeyer, president of U.S. Engineering. They are the co-chairs of the LEM committee for MCA-KC. And so they are going to provide the foundation of how the information is based in LEM, so that as you are using that tool, you'll be able to understand how to appropriately estimate your projects. So with that, Tim and Ron, thank you.
Okay. I'm going to start off, and we're actually going to spend a little bit of time talking some of the history of how the LEM came about. We're going to talk about development of the labor estimating manual, what the definition of a labor unit is. We're going to tour the LEM website. If you haven't been on it, every member should have access to that. If you don't have access to that, talk to us afterwards. We'll talk to you about how to get that. We'll go through the organization of the LEM, the basic assumptions, and performance and correction factors. Those two items are really, really important. And then we're also going to talk about where we're headed, which is a really big effort that we're in the midst of right now. So to start with, our committee is formed of 7 members plus an association executive. And this is a list of the committee members. As you go down through that list, there's a couple things I'd just like to point out, because we get requests all the time for people who are interested in being on the committee. The committee is specifically diverse, both geographically. You'll find on here that we have representation from coast to coast and from north to south. And we have representation on the committee with specific strengths in light commercial, commercial, institutional, industrial, plumbing, and piping. And so when we get requests right now for people who want to participate on the committee, we don't add people until we're missing a strength generally. And so right now we're not looking for members, although if we start to look for developing units on something that's a specialty area, we would reach out and find someone that could bring that expertise to the committee. So that's who the committee is and how we're formed. The purpose of the LEM committee, a few years ago, we had a strategic planning session where we actually documented what the purpose of this committee is. It's really to serve the needs of the MCA membership, provide a resource and education for the membership. The education component, Ron and other members of our committee regularly put on estimating essentials workshops that go into a lot of detail over multiple days on how to estimate using this data. For the plumbing and piping construction work, that's important because we get questions that are outside of plumbing and piping all the time too, and we don't touch it if it's sheet metal or if it's landscape irrigation or those sort of other areas. We're committed to timely responses to member questions, requests for information, and recommendation. The committee will research, calculate, and publish labor units for new materials and methods for plumbing and piping. This information that's on here, we documented a number of years ago because on a regular basis we get manufacturers of new products asking us to create labor units for their product, and we decided that we really needed a set of standards that they have to get over or to meet before we'll create the labor units. So the item has to be commercially available for a period of at least 2 years. If somebody comes up with a new product and it's brand new, we're not going to create the labor units right away. It has to be nationally available to all members for the sizes listed in their literature. It has to be involved in the work that are executed by plumbers and pipe fitters. Our membership has to have an interest in it, and it has to be specifically different from something else that's in the labor estimating manual, which is a hard test right now because there's a lot of products in there. And the naming of items needs to be non-proprietary. Additional purposes, we are charged with keeping historical records. We can go back and tell you what labor units were 10, 15, 20 years ago before they've been changed. So every time a change is made, we log and track that information. And we are charged with keeping existing labor units up to date and consistent. And accuracy and consistency is really, really important. And when we find labor units, for example, that are being consistently factored differently than other labor units, that's a flag for our committee to research it further and determine if they need to be modified. We do provide educational opportunities. We've talked about that a little bit already. The committee is represented for all the geographical areas of the country, as I mentioned before. What our committee does is we review and update information in the labor estimating manual. Most everybody has an old yellow notebook somewhere in their office, or many of them. That's been replaced with the web-based version. We don't publish hard copies anymore, although contractors have them. I would tell you it's dangerous to keep those because we do continue to update the information that's in that. The committee meets 2 times a year, and generally you'll see updates come out 2 times a year. If you're a user of the LEM, you'll get a notification right after our meeting that we've published new units. We make decisions on what should be included, and we actually have a very empirical calculation that we use for calculating those units that allows our units to be very consistent. And again, we represent all areas of the committee. The LEM has somewhere around 200,000 data points in the database, continually growing. This is a misconception, and we get a lot of questions surrounding this. It is not an estimating system. It's a collection of labor units. An estimating system allows you to take those off in a certain manner and add them together, and we've had people ask us if we could create a utility that would do that within the LEM. And the answer is no, we're not going to do that. We're not going to compete with the estimating companies. We used to provide updates on a yearly basis, and they used to be just hard copy. Now, the updates occur on a very frequent basis. You actually will only get update notifications from us probably 2 times a year if you're a user. But as we make updates and changes, and Ron will show you some of those, they occur dynamically. So as we make the change, it immediately is available and is shown, highlighted on the website in the data table, and we'll show you what that looks like. Some of the benefits of the LEM: everything on the LEM is fully available to any subscriber from the computer with internet access, and any MCA member has access to this. This was a key decision that the MCA decided upon. There used to be a fee for getting the updates and being a subscriber to the LEM, and when we converted this to the web, they made the decision that they wanted this to be a benefit of membership. So every member has access to this, but only members. If you're not a member and you're an associate member, then there is a fee for you to have access to it. And we do have many that are not MCA members that are paying for access. It is much faster to locate information than looking through a 4-inch thick manual. And we can show you how the search on that works. Our updates are made real time, so your access is much faster. All of the information is downloadable in Excel or CSV formats if you want to use that data that way. And every time we get done with the publishing units and sending a notification out, those notifications, if you haven't seen them, have specific links to the actual updates. So in the past, you would get a stack of updates in paper form, and your estimator would have to take those and try to figure out, comparing that with the book, what's changed. Now what you get is a link. That link takes you to a table, and the units that are changed are highlighted yellow. Much easier for you to update your estimating data using that system. Member companies receive full access free of charge. You have a username and a password for access, and there's actually a company contact for every company. There's one company contact, and this is important. If you don't know who it is, you need to know who it is, because that company contact will be given your user password that changes every 6 months automatically. That that contact within your company will receive that new password every 6 months. And then the intent is then they would then email that out or distribute that out to all of the users within your company to use.